Hello and welcome to According to Wes. I'm Wesley, an AI Google developer expert, and your host as we unpack the intersection of artificial intelligence and African life. Today, we tackle a foundational truth in the AI conversation, and that is artificial intelligence is hungry for data. Data is the fuel that drives AI. The problem here is Africa has the fuel, but not the refinery. So the big question is, are we feeding global AI systems while starving our own? Let's try to explore this. So, what is data in AI? To understand why data matters in AI, picture this for a minute. AI is like a child, it needs to see, hear, and experience things before it learns. But instead of playgrounds or classrooms, AI learns through massive amounts of data. Digital records of human behavior, images, language, sound, movement, or even the choices that we make. You could look at data in different types, like for instance, structured data, numbers, the spreadsheets we have, our bank transactions. You could also look at non-structured data like social media posts, the emails, the photos we upload on Instagram, the voice notes we send on WhatsApp. You could also look at, for instance, sensor data from our mobile phones, the satellites, the traffic cameras, the drones that we fly around, and behavioral data, what you click, what you like, what you watch, what you ignore. For example, if you want to train AI to identify cassava diseases from leaf images, you need thousands of clear labeled images from Uganda in our climate with our crops. And Africa generates more data than most people realize. From all the mobile money transactions to border GPS trails to public health surveys, the agricultural extension reports from Muvuku irrigation scheme, our school attendance logs, it's all data and it is all gold. Despite this richness, AI systems often don't perform well in African contexts. And the question is why? The data in Africa is unstructured and not digitized. It is inaccessible. So, for instance, most of our data is locked in ministries, in newspapers, in proprietary platforms that we cannot access. The other data is exported. It's often collected here and then processed from abroad and monetized to foreign entities. You can look at, for instance, mobile money fraud detection. You have telecoms like MTN and Airtel, which collect detailed user behavior, but very few local developers can access that data to train fraud detection models. You can look at large language models. English dominates AI, that is a given, but where is Luganda? Where is Lusoga? Where is Acholi? These are barely present in global datasets. When you look at, for instance, healthcare, tools are being trained on Caucasian skin tones, which often then misdiagnose skin conditions in darker skin because African skin tones are underrepresented in dermatology datasets. So we are producing data that trains global AI, but we are not building the AI itself. That is data extraction, not digital empowerment. So the question may be, and let's call it what it is for now. This is data colonialism, the modern day extraction of African knowledge, labor, and identity through digital means. Because who owns the health data collected by foreign funded NGOs? Where does your facial data go after using imported biometric systems? And what happens to African voices used to train voice assistants like Alexa from Amazon or Siri from Apple. Think about how big tech companies use African public space, from image scrapping for computer vision to translation models built for of our user contributed content without our permission or even our compensation. It's a digital replay of extractive history. Back in the days, it was raw materials like copper, cotton, and rubber. Today, it is raw data from African people, African systems, and African behavior. We need to look at what is the local cost of global AI. When African data is used to build non-African AI, we pay the price twice. And here's how. We don't benefit from the insights. That is one. We still have to buy back these solutions by, subscribing to them and heavily. An example is picture a Ugandan agri-tech startup that wants to build an AI crop disease detection tool, but it needs satellite data or labeled crop datasets that are either unavailable, expensive, or in the wrong language, for instance, English. Look at a local hospital that wants to implement diagnostic AI, but the models don't perform well because they were trained on European data, and so they lack the local context. Look at an African fintech that is using, for instance, facial recognition, but the tech misidentifies darker faces, increasing fraud risks or wrongly locking out users. And this has happened with a couple of our African fintech startups. So this is leading to poor performance of imported models, dependency on very expensive foreign tools, and it is a barrier to local innovation. We can't build African AI with European data and we expect it to work for Ugandan problems. So you may ask yourself, how do we then get to fix this? We need to invest in local data creation, encourage open data projects like Mashakani from South Africa. They are crowdsourcing African language data. You can look at Common Voice by Mozilla. They have been collecting African voice recordings for a couple of years, and this is open, so you can use it. You can look at Makere AI Research Lab. They've been curating some datasets over the years. And we also need to support the digitization of public sector data in agriculture, in health, in education, in finance, in security. And we need to build African data infrastructure. We need local data centers. For instance, we have Raxio in Uganda, in Namavi. We need cloud compute resources based in Africa. Luckily, we have AfriCloud, again in Namavi. We need to also build tools for labeling, cleaning, and managing these African datasets. Secondly, third, we need data governance and sovereignty. We need to expand and enforce laws like the Uganda Data Protection and Privacy Act 2019. We need to require foreign entities to localize data and share the benefits out of that data. We need to empower communities to give informed consent for data collection. So people should know that when these NGOs are coming around to collect that data, they need to be informed of how that data is going to be used so that they can make informed consent. We also need to encourage public, private, and open collaboration. We need to let researchers, developers, and startups access anonymized public data. We need to incentivize our telecom companies, banks, and these big firms to share datasets ethically. And we need to create our own local AI champions. That is very important. We need to train young Ugandans in data science, natural language processing, and machine learning. We need to host AI challenges that are centered around real Ugandan datasets on soil, on disease, in languages, in finance, and all that. So, as we close up this episode, we need to understand that data is power. And right now, much of Africa's data power is flowing out, not in. For Uganda to build useful AI, we must own and shape the data that feeds it. The future of African innovation isn't just about building apps, it's about building our data muscle. Next time on the According to West podcast, we will ask what happens when governments use AI. From digital IDs to border control, we will talk about the politics of algorithmic power. For now, you need to understand that AI runs on data, and African data must be part of this equation. You need to understand that Africa produces plenty of data, but we lack the tools, the access, and ownership to benefit from this data. We need to understand that data colonialism is real. We are exporting our digital value. And lastly, solutions lie in local data creation, our own infrastructure, our own policies, and community driven governance. With that, thank you for listening in, and we meet on the next episode.